Now, why in the year 2020 might you buy a new Jaguar F-Type? This is, after all, quite an old car now, and there's a host of new arrivals around. Hence a facelift from Jaguar for the F-Type, keep it fresh before a new car comes along to compete with those new rivals. We're going to go into the details of that facelift and the update soon, but there are some issues before we go anywhere. First of which, key to many PHs I'm sure, is the manual gearbox. That's gone because nobody bought it. Bit of a shame, but understandable. Secondly, the V6 has gone, which is a real disappointment because that was perhaps the best previous F-Type model. And the SVR has gone as well, which was a really charismatic and likeable flagship for the range. Things aren't looking good to start with, but there are some positives to talk about as well. First of which is this new front end. I really like it, I think it looks really cool. It's been designed primarily for Chinese and American markets who like a bolder, more expressive face, but I think it gives the F-Type a bit more personality now. It's more aggressive, it has greater presence on the road where perhaps the old one was a bit plain and inoffensive. And the second positive to discuss is round at the back. So yeah, positive number two with this facelifted F-Type range is that R badge at the back. We've obviously had an F-Type R before, but this car now effectively replaces the SVR, bringing in that car's power, chassis and powertrain technology for less money, which sounds like a bit of a bargain, doesn't it? The SVR was also a great car to drive, so hopefully this will be too. Time to get on the road. So, to driving this new 2020 F-Type, the range as it sits now, we've got this 575 horsepower R at the top. There's a 450 horsepower V8 that replaces the V6s, it starts about £70,000, and the four-cylinder cars that sit at the bottom of the range. Key updates mechanically for this car include a refresh of the 8-speed auto. It's got some learnings from the XE Project 8 in there, so it's a little bit sharper going down. Still not perfect, but it's quicker, and then going up you get a bit more drama, a bit more excitement. Jaguar also says that there have been some changes to springs, dampers, anti-roll bars, the kind of things you would normally expect from a facelift. If I'm honest with you, it still feels a lot like an F-Type. It's not transformed, it's how I remember this car being. But that's no bad thing, because F-Types, despite their faults, do drive really, really nicely. Because they drive like Jaguars, they don't try too hard. The dynamic mode does try too hard and it makes things too firm and too abrupt. But in normal, it's just classy and comfortable and flows along the road really nicely. And it's telling, I think, that Jaguar have put this launch as a road trip. There isn't a track element, it's drive long distances on fast flowing roads in an F-Type. And it suits the car just perfectly because it's got that gait for it. It doesn't sort of shatter you with relentless firmness. It doesn't prove too shouty, even though it can obviously when you need it to. It's really, really good at being a sports GT. It always kind of has been, but there's been this confusion as to whether it's a sports car, whether it's a GT. I think now we can say, yeah, it's a big V8 GT and it does that really, really nicely. Nothing's too forced, despite maybe some contrived exhaust noise. Just from the way it steers, the way it brakes, the way it's damped, it's happy to be a bit more relaxed, and it's actually a really nice attribute to have in a car because it does mean you can do big long distances in it while still having fun. While it has been tweaked and while back to back it probably will feel a little bit better, this is still an F-Type at its core. It's not dramatically changed, but yeah, I think that's as much of a selling point as it always has been. So we're at the end of our little F-Type adventure, our Portuguese road trip, and we now have to answer that question we set out at the beginning of why you should or should not still buy an F-Type in 2020. I think if you liked what the car has always stood for since 2013, you're going to love this facelift because it keeps everything that was there before and improves on those areas that perhaps weren't so good. I don't think it's going to be bringing in anybody new to the car. I think it's still very much an F-Type. If you buy into that, you'll love it. If you haven't before, then you probably won't. But to be truly definitive on it, we'll need to get it with some rivals, and we aim on doing that as soon as we can in the UK. So stay tuned for that soon.